I should have known better than to show up at Mom's birthday dinner. I mean, it wasn't like things had been great between us lately. Ever since Spencer had come crying to me about his urgent situation, I knew I was walking into a storm. But when Grandpa called the night before, his voice soft with that familiar warmth, I caved. Danielle, sweetheart, she's still your mother. You'll regret it if you don't go. So, against my better judgment, I went. A month earlier, Spencer had shown up at my cafe, red-eyed and frantic. He wasn't exactly known for good decisions, but this time, he had outdone himself 10 grand in gambling debt, and apparently, some very dangerous people were after him. He laid it on thick, the tears, the desperation, the "you're my sister, you have to help me," but I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. I had watched Mom and Dad clean up his messes too many times before. Every bad decision, every reckless splurge, there was always a safety net waiting for him. But I had drawn my line in the sand. No, Spencer. Figure it out yourself. His face shifted in an instant. The tears dried up, replaced by pure rage. You heartless bee. I can't believe you'd let them come after me. I shrugged. Then maybe don't gamble with money you don't have. Of course. He ran straight to Mom and Dad. He spun the usual sob story, how I was cruel, how I had the money but refused to help. And just like that, they turned on me. I got the silent treatment, calls ignored, texts met with curt, passive-aggressive responses. And then, Mom's birthday rolled around. A part of me thought maybe, just maybe, they'd let it go. Maybe they'd realize how ridiculous they were being. But the second I stepped into the house, I knew I had made a mistake. Dad was already red-faced, arms crossed. Mom stood beside him, cold and unreadable. And Spencer, sitting at the dining table, smirking like he had already won. Why are you here? Dad snapped. I hesitated. It's Mom's birthday. She didn't even blink. Either you help your brother or you leave. Just like that. No hesitation, no guilt. I glanced at Spencer. He wasn't even pretending to be grateful, just smug, basking in the fact that they had chosen him over me yet again. So I walked away. No arguments, no begging, no goodbyes. I just turned and walked out, letting the door slam behind me. And I thought that was the end of it. I had no idea just how bad things were about to get. Cutting my family off should have been harder. But honestly, it was freeing. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the next disaster, the next phone call begging me to clean up Spencer's mess. I focused on my cafe, worked out more, and finally started sleeping without stress dreams about my idiot brother's latest screw-up. Then, a month later, Dad called. I almost ignored it. But curiosity got the best of me. The moment I answered, I knew something was wrong. His voice, usually sharp, always in control, was flat. Panicked. Danielle, we need to talk. It's urgent. I rolled my eyes. Let me guess Spencer lost another 10 grand? Silence. Then, in a voice so low I barely recognized it, he whispered, he took everything. That made me pause. What do you mean everything? Mom's voice cut in, trembling. Our savings, our entire account. We woke up this morning, and it was all gone. I almost laughed. After years of covering for him, excusing him, defending him, this is what they got. That's tough, I said, not even pretending to be sympathetic. Guess he had another emergency at the blackjack table? Danielle, Dad hissed, his voice raw. It's $60,000. Everything we had. I whistled. Wow, that's gotta sting. We don't know where he is. Mom choked out. He won't answer our calls. Her voice cracked. We need your help. I let that sink in. A month ago, I was dead to them, kicked out of the family for not handing Spencer my money. And now, I was suddenly their daughter again. I should have hung up. I wanted to hang up, but something inside me, some old, bitter part of me, wanted to see just how deep Spencer had buried himself this time. Fine, I said. I'll come over. When I arrived at their house, it was like walking into the aftermath of a natural disaster. Mom looked like she had been crying all night. Dad had aged 10 years in a month. They were broken. I sat across from them and crossed my arms. All right, start from the beginning, Mom sniffled. Last night, we went to bed like normal. This morning, your father checked our account, and it was empty. Every dollar gone. The bank said the money was transferred before dawn. Dad muttered. His hands were clenched into fists. To a new account. I arched an eyebrow. And whose name is on that account? Mom hesitated. Then, with a voice so small it was almost a whisper, she admitted, Spencer's. I exhaled sharply. Even for him, that was bold. So he didn't even try to hide it? Mom slid her phone across the table. A single message from Spencer glowed on the screen. "You guys have always bailed me out. Consider this my last one. Don't bother looking for me." I read it twice. Then slowly, I looked up. Mom was crying again, her face buried in her hands. Dad just sat there, staring at the table like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "And me?" I smiled. "Well," I said, leaning back in my chair, "I guess you finally found out who your favorite child really is." I should have walked away. I should have let them deal with the consequences of their choices, the same way they forced me to deal with theirs. But as I watched them, Mom shaking, Dad looking like he was staring into the abyss, I felt something that surprised me. It wasn't sympathy. It wasn't guilt. It was satisfaction. For the first time in my life, they were feeling what I had felt every time they had thrown me aside for Spencer. The desperation, the helplessness, the realization that the person they trusted would never, ever change. Still, there was one thing that nagged at me. 60 grand was a lot of money, even for a reckless idiot like Spencer. He had never been good at saving, but he wasn't usually this blatant about outright theft. He was impulsive, sure, but he was also a survivor. He never burned bridges completely. This time, though, he had, and that meant he was in deeper than even he realized. "So what exactly do you want me to do?" I asked, leaning back. Dad straightened. "You work in finance. You know about banking fraud, transfers. Money tracing there has to be something you can do." I sighed. "It's not that simple." "Did you actually give him access to the account?" Silence. Mom swallowed hard and nodded. "He was supposed to use it for emergencies," she mumbled. I let out a short, bitter laugh. "Yeah? Well, I guess he had an emergency at the blackjack table." Dad slammed his fist on the table, his frustration finally boiling over. "Danielle, this is our savings, and you gave it to a gambling addict." I shot back. "What do you want me to say?" Mom looked at me with something close to fury, which was ironic considering the situation. "We are your parents. We raised you. We took care of you. And when we ask for help, this is how you treat us?" I stared at her, hardly believing what I was hearing. "You took care of both of us," I said slowly. "But when Spencer needed help, you expected me to step in. And when I needed support, you kicked me out. And now, when he's finally screwed you over, I'm supposed to drop everything?" Dad started pacing. "We're not asking for money, Danielle. We just need to fix this. There must be something we can do." There was, but they weren't going to like it. I exhaled through my nose and pulled out my phone. "There's one way to get the money back," I said, "but it's messy." Mom and Dad leaned in. "If Spencer took out that much cash at once, he's gambling right now. He's not smart enough to stash it away or launder it properly. He thinks he can double it before anyone catches him." Mom looked horrified. "You think he's at a casino?" "Not just any casino," I said. "The kind that doesn't check IDs or follow regulations. The kind that doesn't care if you lose everything and end up owing the wrong people." Dad's face drained of color. "You mean, yeah," I nodded. "Underground gambling." Now they were really panicking. Mom grabbed my arm. "We have to find him." I shook my head. "I'm not going to some backroom casino just to drag him out." Dad clenched his jaw. "Then what do we do?" I scrolled through my contacts and landed on a name I hadn't thought about in years. Rachel. We used to work together before she left finance for what she called riskier opportunities. If anyone knew how to navigate the underground gambling scene, it was her. I hit call. She answered after 2 rings. "Danielle? Haven't heard from you in a while?" "Yeah," I said, getting straight to the point. "I need a favor. You still have connections in the underground casino scene?" Rachel chuckled. "Finally getting into trouble?" "Not me. My brother. He stole 60 grand and is probably losing it as we speak." That got her attention. 60? Damn. "Yeah. I might know where he is, but if he's gambling in one of these places, getting him out won't be easy." I glanced at Mom and Dad, who were watching me with wide, desperate eyes. "I don't need him out," I said. "I need the money back." Rachel was silent for a second. Then she sighed. "All right, I'll ask around. If he's at one of the usual spots, I'll let you know." I hung up and looked at my parents. "Now we wait." Dad frowned. "That's it? Just wait? Do you have a better idea?" An hour later, Rachel texted me an address. It was in a part of town where normal people didn't go after dark. Found him, playing high stakes, losing badly. I turned my phone around so Dad could see the message. His face turned pale. "He's going to gamble it all away, isn't he?" "He already is," I said. Mom grabbed my arm. We have to go now. I shook my head. If we barge in and start yelling, they'll just throw us out. Those places don't like attention. Dad clenched his fists. So what? We just let them burn through everything? No, I said. We do something smarter. Rachel had given me another piece of information. Every gambling house had a collector, the person who handled debts. And in places like this, debt didn't mean pay us when you can. It meant we own you now. If Spencer had already lost more than he had, he wasn't just in trouble, he was theirs. I pulled up another contact, the enforcer. She wasn't just any debt collector, she was the one people feared, the one who made sure debts got paid, one way or another. When she picked up, her voice was cool and sharp. Who is this? I'm calling about a guy named Spencer. Blonde, mid-30s, loud. I'm his sister. A pause, then a dark chuckle. Oh, we know him. Very generous with his money. I'm not calling to cover his debts, I said. I'm calling to make a deal. Silence. Then, go on. I glanced at Mom and Dad, who were still watching me with a mix of horror and hope. Let him keep playing, I said. Let him dig his hole so deep he can't climb out. And when he finally realizes he's screwed, you let my parents bail him out. Dad snapped his head toward me. Danielle, what? I ignored him. They're desperate, I continued. They'll do anything to get their money back. And when they realize they have no other choice, they'll pay off his debt. Every cent. I could hear the enforcer thinking on the other end. And what do you get out of this? She asked. I grinned. I get to watch them suffer. There was a long pause. Then finally, she chuckled. You've got a deal. 3 hours. That's how long we waited, sitting in my parents' dimly lit living room, while Spencer dug his own grave. Mom kept fidgeting, wringing her hands and glancing at Dad like he'd magically come up with a better solution. Dad just stared at the floor, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. I, on the other hand, was enjoying myself far too much. Because for once, I wasn't the one being begged to fix things. I had no doubt that, right now, Spencer was doing what he did best, throwing away everything he had, convinced that one big win would turn it all around. That was the thing about people like him. They never thought they were losing until it was too late. And now he was about to learn just how deep the hole he had dug really was. The clock had just struck midnight when Mom's phone rang. She fumbled to answer it, almost dropping it in her haste. I snatched it from her hand and pressed the speaker button. A frantic, breathless voice filled the room. Mom, you have to help me. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad gripped the arm of his chair so hard his knuckles turned white. I, however, was perfectly calm. What's wrong, Spencer? I asked, my voice cool and measured. There was a pause. He hadn't expected me to be the one answering. Then he swallowed hard. I screwed up, okay? I lost everything, and these guys won't let me leave. They say I owe them 20 grand on top of what I already lost. I could hear low voices murmuring in the background, deep and serious. That would be her, the enforcer. I don't have that kind of money, Spencer continued, his voice breaking. Please, you have to send it now. Mom looked at me, pleading with her eyes. Dad was already reaching for his wallet. I held up a finger, silently telling them not to break. Ask him what happened to the 60 grand, I said. Dad hesitated, then took a deep breath and asked, Spencer, what about the money you stole from us? Silence, then a sniffle. It's gone. I tried to get it back. I thought if I could just... I cut him off. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice slow and deliberate. You stole our parents' life savings, blew it all in a single night, and now you expect them to cover even more of your debts? Spencer sputtered. You don't understand. These guys aren't just debt collectors. They said if I don't pay, they'll... He choked on the words, trying to make it sound as dramatic as possible. I didn't flinch. What? Break your legs? Take a kidney? I said flatly. Sounds like your problem, Mom gasped. Danielle, I ignored her. You made this mess, Spencer. You deal with it. Full panic mode. You can't do this to me, he wailed. Mom, Dad, please. I'll pay you back. I swear. Dad was breathing heavily, clearly on the verge of breaking down. I wasn't finished yet. Put one of the guys on the phone, I said. Spencer faltered. What? You said they're right there, right? Put one on the phone. There was muffled arguing. Then a new voice came through, low, calm, amused. That's some cold-blooded stuff, sister. Respect, the enforcer. How bad is he? I asked. Down to his last chip, she replied. We gave him a chance, even warned him, but he doesn't know when to run. I nodded. I thought so. Mom burst out, please, we just want to make sure he's okay. The enforcer chuckled. Oh, he's fine. For now. Dad finally cracked. We'll pay, he said, voice shaking. Just tell us how. I slammed my hand on the table, making them both jump. No, you won't. Dad turned on me. Danielle, he's our son. He's a thief, I snapped. He stole from you, and now you're going to reward him for it? Mom sobbed. We can't just leave him there. Yes, we can, I said, and we will. Silence. Then the enforcer chuckled again. Damn, I wasn't expecting that. Spencer yelled into the phone. You can't do this to me. I stayed calm. Just let him scream, I said, turning to my parents. Let him panic. Let him realize that for the first time in his life, he can't be saved. There was a long pause. Then the enforcer spoke again, amused. Well, looks like he's staying. And then the call ended. Mom collapsed into Dad's arms, sobbing. Dad just sat there, pale and trembling. I sat back. He'll figure something out, I said. He always does. And I meant it. Because the thing about Spencer, he was a survivor. The real fun was going to be seeing what he had to do to survive this time. The next morning, Mom and Dad looked like they hadn't slept at all. Mom's eyes were puffy. Dad was still clutching his coffee, like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Neither of them spoke to me. I didn't care. I'd made my point. Spencer had finally hit rock bottom. Or so I thought, because at exactly noon, Dad's phone rang. He answered it without thinking, and the moment I saw the color drain from his face, I knew something was wrong. Mom grabbed his arm. What? What is it? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. He's here. I blinked. What? The doorbell rang. Dad looked at me, stunned. Spencer's at the front door. That didn't make sense. He was supposed to be deep in debt, drowning in the consequences of his actions. How the hell did he get out so quickly? Mom ran to the door and yanked it open, and there he was. Spencer was standing on the porch, perfectly fine. No bruises, no broken bones. His hair was messy, and his makeup weight. No, not makeup. Just streaked dirt on his face, like he had been crying. But other than that, he looked normal, like nothing had happened. Mom burst into tears. Oh, sweetheart. We were so worried. She pulled him into a hug, but I didn't move. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. I crossed my arms. How did you get out? Spencer pulled away from Mom and looked at me with wide, fake, innocent eyes. They just let me go, he said. I don't know why. I narrowed my eyes. Spencer never got out of consequences that easily. Dad frowned. But your debt. Spencer wiped his face, sniffling. They said it was okay, that they didn't need it anymore. They just told me to go. Bullshit. Illegal casinos didn't just forgive $20,000 debts. That wasn't how it worked. Something was off. And then, as if to confirm my suspicions, a black SUV pulled up to the house. The engine shut off. The back door opened, and a woman stepped out. Not just any woman, the enforcer. Tall, broad, wearing a perfectly tailored suit, like she was attending a business meeting instead of collecting blood money. Mom gasped. I already knew. Spencer wasn't free. He had just sold himself into something much, much worse. The enforcer adjusted the cuff of her jacket and walked up the driveway like she owned the place. Which, considering the situation, she probably did. Mom clutched Spencer's arm, trying to pull him behind her like a child. What's going on? She stammered. But I already knew. Spencer hadn't paid off his debt. He had traded something for it. And knowing him, he hadn't thought twice about the consequences. The enforcer stopped, just a few feet away, eyes gleaming as she glanced between all of us. Finally, her gaze landed on Spencer. Gonna tell them, honey? She asked, her voice sweet with mockery. Or should I? Spencer stared at the ground. Mom tightened her grip on his arm. Tell us what? The enforcer chuckled softly. Your son maybe broke no money, no assets, but he did have something of value. Mom's breath hitched. Dad's hands were shaking. What does that mean? Dad asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Spencer finally spoke, his voice small. I made a deal. Mom's face twisted in horror. No, honey, you didn't. Relax. The enforcer interrupted. We're not running a human trafficking ring. She smirked at me. Though, to be honest, I think your sister was hoping we were. I didn't deny it. Would have made things easier. Then what the hell does he owe you? I asked. The enforcer exhaled slowly, like she was savoring the moment. We needed someone to run a little operation for us. Move money, manage accounts. Your brother just signed up for a new career. My stomach dropped. This wasn't about gambling anymore. This was money laundering, and Spencer had just agreed to be the fall guy. Dad looked frozen, like his brain was refusing to process what was happening. Mom was shaking her head, mumbling, "No, no, no, no," over and over. But I was the only one who understood the full picture. The enforcer didn't need Spencer. She needed me. That was why they let him go. That was why she was here. They knew I would step in. I sighed, rubbing a hand down my face. "You want the money back, right?" I asked. The enforcer raised an eyebrow. "Obviously. Then you don't need Spencer," I said. "You need someone who actually knows how to move money without raising red flags." Her grin widened. "And you're offering yourself instead?" Mom gasped. "Danielle, no." I ignored her. "I can get your money. All of it. Legally. No risk. No heat." The enforcer studied me, tilting her head slightly. "Go on. But first," I said, pulling out my phone, "I need something from you." She smirked. "You want me to say it, don't you?" I nodded. "Fine." She rolled her eyes. "Spencer is free. He owes us nothing." I hit record. "Say it again, louder." She gave me an amused look, then repeated, "Spencer is free. He owes us nothing." I stopped recording. "Perfect. Now get out of here." The enforcer let out a small laugh but didn't argue. She turned and strolled back to her SUV, completely unbothered. As the car pulled away, the tension in the air snapped. Mom immediately threw her arms around me. "Oh, thank God. I was so scared. You saved him." Dad nodded, looking like he was about to collapse. "Danielle, I don't know what to say." Spencer, of course, just crossed his arms and muttered, "I didn't ask for your help." I scoffed. "You never do." Then I turned to Dad, my expression hardening. "You're going to pay me back," I said. "Every cent of the 60 grand. I don't care how long it takes." Dad swallowed hard but nodded. Mom wiped her eyes. "But what are you going to do? You promised them you'd get their money." I grinned. "Oh, I'll get their money," I said. "Just not the way they expect." Spencer frowned. "What do you mean?" I pulled up my contacts and dialed a number. The phone rang twice before a deep voice answered. "This is Detective Harris." The first smiled. "Hey, detective, I've got a tip for you. Some very interesting people are moving dirty money through underground casinos, and I know just where to find them." Spencer's face turned white. "Danielle, what are you doing?" I met his eyes. Completely calm. "I'm burning it all down," Mom gasped. Dad's mouth fell open. Spencer took a step back. I just turned and walked out the door because I was done playing their games. This time, I was the one in control. Story 2. Looking back, I can't believe how naive I was. 3 years ago, I was engaged to a woman I truly believed was the love of my life. Her name was Layla, and we had spent nearly 5 years together, building what I thought was a solid relationship. We were both lawyers, thriving in high-pressure careers. Yet we always found ways to carve out time for each other. I saw a future with her marriage, a family, a lifetime partnership. So when I proposed, I thought I was securing the best years of my life. Instead, I was setting myself up for the biggest betrayal I'd ever experience. The year of our engagement was supposed to be the happiest. We were deep in wedding planning when Layla's life took an unexpected turn. She lost her job under humiliating circumstances. I won't go into details, but let's just say it wasn't a simple layoff. She broke company policies, and they cut her loose in a way that left her reputation in shambles. If you've ever known someone whose entire self-worth is tied to their career, you'd understand how devastating this was. Layla wasn't just unemployed. She felt stripped of her identity. At first, I did everything I could to support her. I reassured her that we'd be fine financially, that she could take her time finding a new job. I covered all our bills, picked up extra work, and tried to keep her spirits up. To help distract herself, she threw herself into a new interest: landscaping. She signed up for a local class, which I thought was great for her mental health. What I didn't anticipate was who else would be in that class. My younger brother, Marcus. Marcus and I had always been different. I was the studious, career-driven type, while he was the carefree, live-in-the-moment kind of guy. He had a reputation never taking anything seriously, especially relationships. Women came and went in his life, and he never seemed to care. Layla had met him early in our relationship and had always found his antics amusing but harmless. So when she started spending more time with him in class, I thought nothing of it at first. Then I noticed small things. The way she laughed a little too much when talking about him. The way she suddenly had inside jokes with him. The fact that she was spending weekends with Marcus instead of with me. My gut told me something was off, but when I asked her about it, she brushed it off saying Marcus was like an annoying little brother to her. I wanted to believe her. I needed to. Everything unraveled 8 weeks before our wedding. I had been pulling long hours at work to keep us afloat financially, handling wedding expenses and household costs. I was exhausted, mentally drained, and hoping to surprise Layla by coming home from a work trip earlier than planned. Instead, I walked into a nightmare. Marcus's car was in the driveway. It was too late for a casual visit. My heart started pounding as I stepped into the house, dread sinking into my stomach. I moved through the quiet hall, pausing at our bedroom door, and there they were, Layla and Marcus, wrapped up in each other, completely lost in the moment. For a second, I couldn't even process what I was seeing. It was like my brain refused to register it as reality. But the moment my body caught up with my rage, I acted. I stormed into the room, grabbing Marcus by the back of his neck and yanking him off the bed. His face went from confused to terrified the moment he saw me. He stammered something, an apology, an excuse. I didn't care. I punched him hard. The sickening crunch of his nose breaking was the only thing that cut through the red haze in my mind. Blood poured down his face as he cried out in pain, but I wasn't done. I hit him again and again. I lost count. When he collapsed onto the floor, bleeding and whimpering, I finally turned to Layla. She was shaking, crying, pleading with me to listen, to let her explain. I didn't need to hear anything. I just looked at her and said, "You have 10 minutes to pack your stuff and get out," she begged. I didn't budge. 9 minutes. She scrambled to gather her things, sobbing the entire time. When she reached the door, she turned back one last time, her voice shaking. "Please, let me explain. I love you." I didn't even look at her. I just held out my hand, took off my engagement ring, and dropped it into her palm before shoving her out the door. I slammed it shut, locking her out of my life forever. Marcus, still slumped on the floor, tried to say something else, but I was beyond words. I called our parents and told them everything. My father was furious at Marcus, while my mother was in shock. They rushed over, my mom tending to Marcus's injuries, while my dad pulled me aside to calm me down. When Marcus finally had the audacity to speak, he dropped another bombshell. He was in love with Layla. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetically predictable. He tried to justify it, claiming it was the first time they had done anything, as if that made it any better. He even showed me their messages, texts full of flirting, of Layla confiding in him about how unhappy she had been with me. She had invited him over that night, knowing I'd be gone. Marcus begged for forgiveness, but my father wasn't having it. He told Marcus he was lucky I hadn't done worse. My mother, on the other hand, took a different approach. She started pleading with me, insisting that family was more important than any woman, that I should forgive my brother. She even tried to hand me money, suggesting it could help cover the wedding expenses that had now gone to waste. I took the check, but not her advice. My mother tried to argue, but I shut her down. I don't need your money, and I sure as hell don't need your input. I told them to take Marcus and leave. And just like that, I was alone in what was supposed to be our shared home, surrounded by the ruins of a life I had planned. In the following weeks, Layla bombarded me with messages, desperate to talk, to explain, to make things right. I ignored every single one. Then, Marcus called. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. "Layla's pregnant," he blurted out, "with my baby." For the first time since the betrayal, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. Marcus went on to say that he wanted to marry her and that he needed my blessing. I hung up. My mother, however, saw the pregnancy as some divine sign. She doubled down on trying to make me reconcile, insisting that Layla and Marcus were meant to be together and that I should embrace their relationship. I made it clear that if she chose to stand by them, she was choosing to lose me. She made her choice. 3 years later, I had left them all behind. I moved to a new city, started fresh, and cut contact with everyone except my father. Life was finally good again. Until yesterday, when I opened my front door, Layla was standing there, and beside her, clutching her hand, was a little girl with Marcus's face. I stood there, gripping the edge of my door, staring at the last person I ever expected to see again, Layla. She looked nothing like the woman I once knew. Her eyes were sunken, her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she had this tired, worn-down look like life had chewed her up and spit her out. But what really caught me off guard wasn't her. It was the little girl standing beside her, clutching her hand. She couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 years years old, but there was no mistaking it. This was Marcus's kid. She had his eyes, his face, even that same slightly lopsided smile he used to flash whenever he thought he could charm his way out of trouble. I should have slammed the door right then. Instead, I heard myself ask, "What are you doing here?" Layla's lip trembled. "I need to talk to you, please." I almost laughed. The audacity. After everything she had done, after the way she and Marcus had burned my life to the ground, she had the nerve to show up at my doorstep, asking for a conversation. I wanted to tell her to leave, but then I glanced down at the little girl. Her big brown eyes stared up at me, filled with curiosity but no recognition. She had no idea who I was, no idea that her father was the reason my life had been ripped apart. I sighed and stepped aside. "5 minutes," I said, my voice flat. "That's all you get." She nodded quickly and shuffled inside, leading the little girl Jessie. She told me over to the couch. I didn't bother offering them anything. I stayed standing, arms crossed, waiting for her to explain why she was here. She fidgeted with the strap of her purse. "I know I'm the last person you want to see, and I wouldn't have come if I had any other choice." I raised an eyebrow. "That's never a good start." She took a shaky breath. "Marcus is gone." For a second, I thought she meant dead. And I won't lie, some dark part of me felt a flicker of relief. But then she clarified. "He left 3 months ago. Took off in the middle of the night. No warning, no explanation. Just packed his things and disappeared." I didn't even flinch. That was Marcus. The man never took responsibility for anything in his life. I had no idea why Layla thought he'd suddenly become a reliable husband and father just because she had a kid with him. She kept going. I held on for as long as I could. I thought maybe he'd come back, but then bills started piling up. Rent was overdue. I was already struggling to keep a job while raising Jessie, and when your mother told me she wasn't going to help anymore, I stiffened. My mother? Layla swallowed. She was giving me money, helping me stay afloat. But once Marcus disappeared, she said she wasn't going to support me and Jessie anymore. I let out a bitter laugh. "So let me guess you thought, hey, maybe the guy I cheated on will want to help out?" She flinched. "I didn't come here to ask for money." I gave her a skeptical look. She fished an envelope out of her purse and slid it across the table toward me. "I didn't track you down myself. Your dad gave me your address. And this..." I picked up the envelope and immediately recognized my mother's handwriting on the front. Inside was a letter. It was exactly what I expected. A guilt trip. A long-winded speech about how, as Marcus's brother, it was my responsibility to step in and help his child. How blood is thicker than water. How families should support each other, no matter what. She even had the nerve to call Jessie my niece, as if that meant something to me, as if that erased what had happened. I set the letter down and looked at Layla. "So what? You thought I'd read this and suddenly feel obligated to play daddy to Marcus's kid?" Layla's voice cracked. "I don't know what I expected. I have nowhere else to go." Her eyes welled up with tears, but I wasn't falling for it. "Not this time. Not my problem," I said simply. She blinked, as if she hadn't considered that possibility. Her voice got desperate. "Please, I wouldn't be here if I had any other options. I just need a little help. Just something to get us back on our feet." "Jessie." She looked down at the little girl, who was now tugging on the hem of her shirt. "She didn't ask for any of this." I stared at the child again. She was innocent. She had no idea what kind of disaster she'd been born into, and I hated that. I hated that Marcus and Layla had brought her into this world without a second thought, with no stability, no real plan. For a split second, I almost felt bad for her. But then I reminded myself, Jessie wasn't my child. She wasn't my responsibility. And Layla? She had made her bed. Now she had to lie in it. I shook my head. "I'm not getting involved." Layla's face crumpled. "I don't even have enough gas to get back home." I sighed and pulled out my wallet. I handed her enough cash to fill up her tank and maybe grab a cheap meal. "That's all you're getting," I told her. "Now go." She hesitated, like she wanted to argue, like she wanted to beg. But something in my face must have told her I wasn't budging. She took the money, murmured a choked "thank you," and stood up, leading Jessie toward the door. Just before she stepped outside, she turned back to me. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I really did love you, you know." I didn't respond. I just shut the door in her face. Then I locked it. And just like that, I was done. At least, that's what I thought. But life has a way of dragging you back in, whether you like it or not. And this wasn't over yet. For a few days after Layla showed up, I kept expecting her to come back. Maybe she'd change her mind. Maybe she'd get desperate enough to try again. But she never did. And honestly, I was fine with that. I had moved on. I had built a new life, far away from the people who had betrayed me. I wasn't about to let the past pull me back in just because Layla had finally realized what a mistake she had made. Then my dad called. I almost didn't answer. He rarely called. Our relationship had been strained ever since I left. He never actively took my brother's side, but he never really took mine either. He was always the let's keep the peace type, the kind of man who thought ignoring problems made them disappear. Still, something told me to pick up. The moment I answered, I could hear it in his voice. Guilt. Son, he started, I need to talk to you. I leaned back in my chair. This about Layla? Silence, then a sigh. Yes. I already knew what was coming. You gave her my address. Another pause. Your mother made me. I clenched my jaw. Of course it was her. She thought if you saw Layla saw Jesse, you'd want to help. I let out a bitter laugh. You mean she thought she could guilt me into fixing Marcus's mess? My dad didn't argue because he knew I was right. She's just worried about the kid, he admitted. She says it's not fair to let her suffer because of Marcus. Then she can help, I said flatly. It's funny how she only cares now that Marcus is gone. Where was all this sympathy when I was the one picking up the pieces? More silence. Then he finally said, she's scared, son. She doesn't know what to do now that Marcus isn't around. I scoffed. She picked her favorite dad. Now she gets to deal with what that means. He exhaled heavily. I didn't call to argue. I wanted to explain. I rubbed my temples, my patience wearing thin. Is that all? He hesitated. There's one more thing, he said carefully. Marcus is back. My grip on the phone tightened. Where? I asked. Not far, he admitted. He's been staying with some woman. I don't know how serious it is, but he's not planning on coming back to Layla. I wasn't surprised. If anything, I was relieved. That meant I wouldn't have to worry about him showing up at my door next. What does Layla know? She found out yesterday, my dad said. She tried to get him to come back. He told her he was done. I nodded, mostly to myself. So, she's really out of options now. She is, he agreed. But that doesn't mean she's your problem. That caught me off guard. For once, my dad wasn't pushing me to be the bigger person. He wasn't trying to make me forgive. She made her choices, he said. And I know she's hoping you'll change your mind. But you don't owe her anything. I didn't expect to hear that from him, but it didn't change anything. I already knew where I stood. Good, I said, because I won't. We didn't talk much longer. When I hung up, I felt lighter, like I had finally, truly let it all go. Then a few days later, Layla broke the last bit of my patience. She emailed me. I almost deleted it without reading it, but something told me to open it. It was long, desperate, full of apologies and excuses. She said she was sorry again, that she regretted everything again, that she wished she could go back and undo it all. But then, at the very end, she asked me for something. Help. Not money, not a place to stay. She wanted me to help her find Marcus. She wanted me to track him down and force him to take responsibility. I stared at my screen in disbelief. I had been done with her. I had given her a final chance to walk away with some dignity, but she just couldn't do it. I took a deep breath, then typed out the last thing I would ever say to her. Layla, I made myself clear when I told you not to contact me. You didn't listen. I don't care what Marcus did or didn't do. That's not my concern. That's not my burden. You chose him. You chose this life. You don't get to drag me into it now just because you regret it. This is the last time I will say this. Leave me alone. Then I blocked her for good. And for the first time in years, I felt free. After I blocked Layla, I thought that was the end of it. I had nothing left to say, nothing left to give. I had already let her take too much from me, my time, my energy, my trust. I wasn't about to let her take another second of my life, but life has a way of making sure you're really, truly done with something before it lets you move on. The final test came a week later. It started when my mother called. I ignored it. Then she called again and again. By the fourth missed call, I knew she wasn't going to stop. So I finally picked up. What? I said, not bothering to hide my irritation. She wasted no time. You took my money under false pretenses. I blinked. What the hell are you talking about? The check, she snapped. The one I gave you. You told me you'd consider helping Layla and Jesse if I gave it to you. I laughed out loud. I said I'd consider it. I never said I would, she huffed. Well, I want it back. I leaned back in my chair, shaking my head. Go ahead and sue me, she spluttered. Excuse me? You heard me, I said. Take me to court. Explain to a judge that you willingly gave me money, with no contract, no written agreement, no proof of any deal. See how that works out for you. Silence. Then, she hissed. You're being cruel, I sighed. No, Mom, I'm done being manipulated. You're punishing Jessie for something that isn't her fault. I'm not punishing anyone, I said flatly. I'm just not fixing Marcus's mistakes. That's your job. You made him the way he is. You let him get away with everything. And now you're mad because he finally ran out of people to clean up his mess. She had no response to that, so I ended the call. And then I blocked her too. The final blow: a few days later, I got an email from Marcus. I almost laughed. I opened it, expecting some half-assed apology, maybe even a request for money. I wasn't expecting what I got. He wanted me to represent him in court. Yep, Layla had finally done what I told her to do. She was suing him for child support. And Marcus, in all his stupidity, thought I'd help him. I didn't even bother responding. I just forwarded the email to a lawyer friend of mine and told him to send Marcus a polite go to hell on my behalf. Then I deleted the email and blocked him too. The aftermath: it's been months now. My phone is quiet. No more calls. No more emails. No more surprise visits. Marcus lost the case. He has to pay child support now. Not that he will. He'll probably run again, just like before. But that's not my problem. Layla, I have no idea what happened to her, and I don't care. My mother, still blocked. My father reached out once, just to say he understood why I did what I did. He didn't apologize, but I didn't expect him to, and that's fine. I can live with that. For the first time in years, my life is mine again. No more family drama, no more betrayals, no more ghosts from the past. I'm finally free, and I have no regrets.